My mom and I grew up together, but since it was the 70s and the 80s in the South, no one really noticed. So while she and my dad, the newly minted Vietnam veteran, were off doing whatever it is teenage hippie parents do, I spent my time with my grandparents. Some days it was Granny, the faded beauty debutante mother of my mother who smoked Pall Malls in an endless chain and kept her stash of Old Milwaukee on the back floorboard of her Mercury Comet. She preferred her beer warm. She entertained the cousins and me with renditions of Ray Charles's I Can't Stop Loving You, sung soulfully in the mirror where the face of my grandfather seemed to forever linger, the fact that he'd run off with his secretary and left her flat broke notwithstanding. So even though she lived on $10 or so a month and didn't work, Pearl came every week and polished her silver. Other days, and most weekends, it was me, Ma, and Papa. Friday nights with steak on the indoor countertop grill and Lawrence Welk. Saturdays, me, Ma, and I would walk to the cemetery and have tea parties between the ancient tombstones set within a family plot complete with steps. Or we'd pick muscadines and blackberries that grew wild along the train tracks. Papa would take me shopping at the drop of a hat. No trip was complete without a crinoline-filled dress, including a bell that tinkled when you twirled. No cousins on my dad's side, so I was the belle of the ball for 6 solid years. My mom tried. She really did. We'd sit on the floor and play jacks, or she'd make us squished crinkly meat sandwiches with the cast iron press she'd found at an antique store. One time, she even tried to make fudge, but it rained for days, and she said that's why it never set. I thought it was good and ate it with a spoon. When my brother was born, I was sure my life was over. I stood over his crib staring just a beat too long, and my mom ushered me quickly away and gave me a new doll. And when I was sick and tired of being a gypsy or a hobo every single Halloween, she said, "Fine, be a hooker." And I was psyched. 10 years old with no idea what that was, and loving every minute of the fishnets, I almost gave this one old man on the trick-or-treat route a heart attack when he asked me what I was. The main thing is that my mom would put me to bed with her when my dad cranked Elton John as loud as it would go at 2 a.m. and we knew the night was no longer ours. Then, after the divorce, it was just her and me, my brother living the family life with my dad and his former secretary, now wife, and the new baby brother whose existence had set it all into motion. We didn't have a Pearl or any silver to speak of, but usually around month 6 of a new apartment, we'd have to move in the middle of the night. My job was to cover the nail holes, and there were a lot, with chalk so we'd get back our deposit. I'd pull out my little tin box and go to town. It wasn't until middle school that the fun really started. I'd be asleep in bed, and in would come Mama. "Wake up, let's go to the Venus." Blinking clock showing 1 a.m., I'd pull myself from under the covers, and we'd head to breakfast. School night, be damned. Even though she'd been out with her friends all night, they came to get me to go eat. She was thoughtful like that. Usually, she'd have a beauty tip for me like, "You really need to wear more makeup." Or advice like, "It's crazy to wait until marriage to have sex. What if it's awful and then you're stuck with them?" It was around this time that I decided I'd never have kids, would immerse myself in a high-powered career in banking, and become a Republican. So while I insisted on wearing only Izod and Ralph Lauren, she went along without much comment, except when I demanded to know why she couldn't just be in the junior league like all the other moms. Instead, we'd spend our free time on the floor in front of the blanket chest stereo, feeding 45s onto the spindle and singing our hearts out. Then she'd make us beetle cats with fried bologna and boxed mashed potatoes for dinner, like the excellent chef she was. I credit most of that for my becoming a complete, from-scratch, no-processed foodie, because I didn't know until I was an adult that peas didn't come from a can. I also think my ability to know that when life gives you lemons, you just move comes from her too. And even though I own my own house, I still have that tin of chalk tucked in the drawer just in case. And for the record, I did end up having kids, 2 in fact, and I've been happily married for over 20 years to the guy I lost my virginity to. At some point, I also became a hippified writer and ad agency owner who votes straight Democrat. Lucky for me, some things you just never shake. Thank you.